Doctor Strange foresaw a future so terrifying he refused to let Spider-Man see it. A single secret, hidden behind a spell even Strange feared to cast. A truth so devastating it would break Spider-Man beyond repair. So Strange rewrote fate, sealing his own. He erased memories, cut threads of destiny, and blinded the future itself. And in doing so, he signed the moment of his own death. Because the threat wasn't coming for Spider-Man. It was coming for the sorcerer who dared hide the truth. Doctor Strange felt the universe scream before he even opened his eyes. A cold crack rippled through the fabric of reality, a warning he had hoped he would never hear again. Outside the sanctum, the world looked normal, sunlight on the streets, people walking, life unfolding. But inside Strange's mind, a prophecy replayed like a blade being driven deeper every time he breathed. The future he had seen. The one he had sworn to stop at any cost. He stood in the center of the sanctum's main hall, eyes closed, hands trembling as the memory of that vision surged back, Spider-Man, broken, kneeling in a field of collapsing timelines. Shadows around him took shapes, faces Peter trusted, twisted into demons. Something monstrous towered behind him, a creature born from a truth Peter was never meant to know. Its whisper was poison. Its hunger was endless. And once Peter learned that truth, every future, every timeline, every reality ended with the same horrifying scene, Peter's hope devoured, the universe unraveling with him. Strange had watched billions of possibilities. None escaped the creature's rise. Until one did. One single thread out of infinity, where Spider-Man never learned the truth. One secret kept. One spell cast. One sacrifice demanded. Strange opened his eyes and felt his breath catch. The room around him flickered, reality stuttering for just a heartbeat. The prophecy was no longer a distant threat. It was active. Moving. He delayed the vision, yes, but only barely. The monster was stirring earlier than expected. His cloak fluttered anxiously behind him as if sensing his fear. Strange walked toward the ancient mirror portal at the sanctum's heart. The reflections twisted as he approached. Instead of his face, he saw possibilities, himself dying, worlds burning, Spider-Man screaming for help. Images flashed like lightning, each more violent than the last. Strange clenched his fists. He had already done what the universe demanded. He had already erased Peter's memory of that event. Already sealed the truth in a spell older than time, a spell that cut him off from destiny itself. But the cost was beginning to show. A burning sensation crawled up his arm, across his chest, and into his heart. Threads of magic flickered beneath his skin like cracks of light. When he cast that forbidden spell, he hadn't just erased a memory, he erased a piece of his own fate. He was no longer anchored to the timeline. He was a loose thread. And something in the dark was tugging on it. Strange grabbed the edge of a table as the room spun. He saw Spider-Man in the distance, swinging freely through the city, oblivious to the cosmic storm forming around him. The boy was safe, for now. That was all that mattered. But Strange could feel the creature's attention shifting. Its curiosity turning. Its hunger growing. Not toward Peter this time. Toward him. Doctor Strange inhaled deeply, steadying himself. He had sealed his own destiny so the boy would never face this nightmare. Now the nightmare was coming early. And Strange knew, with painful clarity, that this time he would face it alone. Doctor Strange stood at the balcony of the Sanctum Sanctorum, watching the sun hit the city like nothing was wrong. But the brightness didn't touch him. Inside, the air was heavy with magic, thick, unstable, humming with danger. He could feel the forbidden spell inside him pulsing like a second heartbeat, unraveling slowly, ripping strands of fate apart one by one. He moved through the sanctum with urgency. Doors opened before he touched them. Runes awakened as he passed. He entered a hidden chamber, one even Wong didn't know existed. Not because Strange didn't trust him, but because this spell was something no sorcerer should ever see. The walls glowed with carvings older than Earth, symbols written by beings who lived before time understood itself. Strange placed his hand on the center sigil. The carvings responded with a blinding gold flare. Reality rippled. The truth unfolded in front of him. The spell he cast months earlier, the one that erased a truth from Spider-Man's mind, was beginning to break. Not because Peter remembered anything. No. Peter was safe. Innocent. Free. The danger came from the other side of the spell. The creature. The being made of erased futures, of collapsed timelines and forgotten tragedies. A monster born from the truth Peter never learned. Strange had hoped sealing the secret would trap the creature forever. But sealing it had done something worse. It woke the beast up early. Strange watched images forming in the spell's visions, the creature crawling through the spaces between seconds, ripping open cracks in time, tunneling through dimensions like a starving animal smelling food. And the food wasn't Spider-Man anymore. It was Strange. The spell had redirected the creature's hunger. The universe had rewired its rules. He was the secret. He was the key. He was the one who tampered with destiny. The creature wanted the sorcerer who hid the truth. Strange staggered as the room distorted around him. The spell reacted to his fear, warping the air. He steadied himself, gripping a floating relic. "Focus, Stephen," he muttered. "You caused this. You fix it." His cloak wrapped around him like a worried pet. He opened a portal and stepped through it, landing on the roof of a skyscraper where the sky rippled like liquid glass. A tear formed, thin at first, then expanding, stretching, cracking open like a wound. Something pressed against the other side, a hand made of shifting shadows and broken memories. Strange threw up a barrier instantly. Golden sigils spun around his palms, forming a dome of energy. The tear slammed into it, screeching like 1,000 distorted voices. The barrier held, barely. Down below, Spider-Man swung through the city with zero idea that reality was fighting to hold itself together above him. Strange felt the spell pulsing again. The consequence of his choice. The universe was telling him the truth. To protect Spider-Man, he had to sacrifice more than memories. More than destiny. More than fate. He had to sacrifice himself. Strange closed his eyes and strengthened the barrier until his arms shook violently. "As long as he lives, the spell holds," he whispered. And the monster behind the crack pressed harder, sensing him. Hunting him. The fate Strange sealed was coming for its debt. Dr. Strange could feel the creature stalking him long before it ever appeared. It wasn't like sensing a demon, or a dark sorcerer, or even Dormammu. This thing didn't radiate magic or malevolence. It radiated absence, like a hole in reality searching for what was missing. And what was missing was him. The sanctum's relics rattled as Strange tried to reinforce the protective wards, but the magic inside him kept glitching, like a candle flickering in open wind. The forbidden spell had carved scars into his soul. Every time he touched his power, the wound widened. Runes cracked. Sigils fizzled. Spells backfired. Wong would have stopped him if he knew the truth. The Avengers would have demanded answers. And Peter would have never forgiven him. Which is exactly why Strange had erased everything, including the parts of himself that could resist the creature's approach. A thunderous rumble shook the sanctum's foundation. Strange spun around just in time to see a mirror on the wall warp inward, stretching like liquid pulled by an invisible force. Reflections twisted into nightmarish shapes, Spider-Man's mask melting, Strange's own face splitting, universes folding like paper. Then the glass shattered. Something crawled out. Not a body. Not even a shadow. A void. A writhing silhouette made of broken timelines, flickering memories, and fractured versions of reality. The creature looked like it was made from every mistake Strange had wiped out, and every truth he had buried. Strange raised his hands, magic crackling, but the creature didn't attack. It studied him, like an animal trying to understand its target. He realized with icy horror. It wasn't here to fight. It was here to confirm him. To confirm the one who erased the truth. Stay back, Strange warned, voice strained. You exist because I altered destiny. But you're not getting to him. The boy is protected. The creature tilted its featureless head, and 1,000 distorted whispers layered together. You broke the thread. Now you are the thread. Strange's blood turned cold. The thing lunged, not physically, but through the planes of his mind. His vision blurred. Floors disappeared. Walls folded. Suddenly he was falling through memories that weren't real anymore. The forbidden spell was collapsing inside him, and the creature was ripping through the cracks. He hit the ground in a dimensional void where time warped like smoke. The creature loomed above him, shifting through shapes, broken pieces of Spider-Man, shattered versions of Strange, faces from futures that never happened. Strange forced himself to stand. He could barely breathe. But he wouldn't kneel. He wouldn't run. He wouldn't let Spider-Man be touched by this nightmare. You want me? He said, summoning what strength he had left. Fine. But understand this, I erased the truth for a reason. And I'll erase you before I let you reach him. The creature screeched, a sound that cracked the dimensional walls. Strange unleashed a torrent of golden fire, shredding the void. The creature recoiled, its form flickering chaotically. But Strange felt something worse than pain. He felt the spell inside him weaken again. Another piece of his fate torn out. His life shortening. His end approaching. He wasn't just fighting a monster. He was fighting the countdown to his own death, the one he had sealed the moment he protected Spider-Man from knowing the truth. Dr. Strange hit the ground with a force that bent the dimensional plane beneath him. Colors twisted, gravity broke apart, the air tasted like static. The creature descended after him, its form glitching every second, sometimes tall, sometimes small, sometimes a blur of faces stolen from futures that should never exist. Every movement it made tore little rips in reality, like paper being shredded slowly. Strange staggered to his feet, breathing hard. His magic sparked unpredictably, flickering between brilliance and collapse. The forbidden spell inside him, his greatest mistake, his greatest sacrifice, was becoming unstable. Every moment of combat pulled at the cracks, tearing threads of his life away. He didn't show the fear. He couldn't. Not when the universe itself was trembling. Come on then, he said through clenched teeth, I don't have all day. The creature lunged. Strange twisted his hands, conjuring a spinning sigil of fire and fractal geometry. It slammed into the creature's chest, blasting it backward through a floating shard of shattered time. The shard exploded into fragments showing alternate versions of Spider-Man, crying, fighting, dying. None of them real anymore, because Strange erased the truth that created those futures. But every piece reminded Strange of why he did this. Why he couldn't let Peter see the future he had seen. The creature reformed and hurled itself at him again, this time ripping open a hole in the void with its hands. A gravitational storm surged out, pulling Strange toward oblivion. He thrust his hands into the pull, anchoring himself with glowing chains of eldritch energy. The strain was agonizing. It felt like the chains were hooked into his bones, pulling him apart. You can't kill me, Strange growled. I've already seen how I die. The creature screeched, its voice layered with the echoes of timelines long erased. You die, because you hid the truth. You die, because the boy forgets. You die, so he can live. The words hit Strange like knives. The creature surged forward, latching onto him. Strange gasped as visions flooded his mind, his own death, replayed over and over. A future where no one remembered why he died. Not Wong. Not the Avengers. Not Peter. A future where Dr. Strange simply vanished. He pushed back with everything he had. Golden whips cracked across the creature's form, ripping chunks of nothingness from it. He cast mirror illusions, binding spells, reality folds, everything he knew. The void exploded with magical detonations so bright they looked like miniature suns. But for every blow he landed, the creature grew stronger. It fed on erased moments. It devoured forgotten futures. And Strange was full of erased truths. His power was its fuel. Strange's knees buckled. He caught himself, but barely. Sweat dripped down his forehead. The cloak wrapped tightly around his shoulders as if trying to hold him upright. He whispered, "This is my fault. All of it." And yet, the moment the creature moved toward a dimensional rift, one that pointed toward Earth, Strange snapped back into absolute clarity. Spider-Man. The boy would never survive this thing. With the last strength in his body, Strange hurled a sigil so massive it broke the dimensional floor beneath them. The blast tore the creature backward, pinning it between collapsing timelines. Strange raised his hands for one final spell, voice shaking but resolute. "You're not touching him. Not now. Not ever." But his vision blurred. His heart slowed. The forbidden spell cracked again. He could feel it. His end was close. Closer than ever. And yet he stood, ready to give the last piece of himself to keep Spider-Man safe. Doctor Strange's body felt like it was made of breaking glass. Every spell he cast, every second he stood, drained what little life the forbidden magic had left him. The creature, made of erased timelines and shattered truths, was pinned only for a moment, writhing inside a collapsing cage of dimensional fractures. Strange knew he had seconds, maybe less. The void around them cracked like a frozen lake. Chunks of alternate realities floated past, some peaceful, some burning, some impossible. In one shard, Spider-Man swung across New York laughing. In another, he lay lifeless beneath a storm of cosmic dust. Strange forced himself not to look at that one again. He whispered to himself, he must never know. The creature broke free with a roar that sounded like 1,000 lost futures screaming at once. It surged forward, its form glitching violently, pulling pieces of existence with it, devouring anything forgotten. Strange stumbled back, his boots skidding across a fracture in time. His knees threatened to give out, but he held the stance like a dying warrior refusing to kneel. The beast lunged. Strange thrust up a barrier, thin, weak, almost transparent. The creature smashed into it, sending cracked spiderwebbing across the spell. Strange gasped as the impact drained years off his life. He could feel it. His timeline unraveling like a pulled thread. Still, he pushed back. "I won't let you near him," Strange whispered, voice shaking. "I rewrote fate for him. I took the burden so he wouldn't have to. If a universe must pay for that, let it be mine." The creature didn't speak with words, it spoke with memory. Reflections of Spider-Man's face. A truth the boy was never meant to learn. Strange felt the spell inside him pulse violently, signaling the end. His heartbeat slowed to an unnatural rhythm. His fingers trembled. His magic dimmed. Time fractured again. A vision flickered, Strange falling lifeless onto the sanctum floor, the cloak draping over him like a shroud. No one around him knew why. No one understood what he stopped. No one remembered the truth he buried. The timeline showed him dying alone, unmourned by the one person he'd sworn to protect. The future he sealed with his own fate. Strange inhaled shakily. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of Peter ever knowing he caused it. The creature lunged one final time, aiming for the heart of the spell inside Strange. If it broke that spell, the truth would explode into the world, and Spider-Man would face the unbearable destiny Strange saw. No. Never. With the last shred of strength he possessed, Strange spoke a final incantation, a spell meant not to win, not to destroy, but to bind. By the forgotten threads, by the erased lines of fate, come with me. The sigil burst beneath his feet, swallowing both him and the creature in a blinding spiral of collapsing realities. The beast screeched, trapped, ripped away from the universe, bound to Strange's unraveling life. As long as he lived, it would remain sealed. And as long as it remained sealed, Spider-Man was safe. The void dimmed. The spell snapped shut. Doctor Strange fell to his knees, exhausted beyond recovery. His heartbeat was faint. His vision turned white. Before the temporal fissure closed, he whispered one final sentence into the fabric of the universe. "Peter, live freely. That is my truth." Then he vanished. Back on Earth, Spider-Man paused mid-swing, suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling he couldn't explain, like someone important had just left the world. He didn't know what Strange had done. He didn't know what fate had been erased. He didn't know the secret that cost the sorcerer his life. All he felt was a quiet ache. A loss he couldn't remember. A sacrifice he would never know.